But I like to remind everyone, we made the choice. So
Mm,
there's nothing in the records we're not going to like, because then that would mean we don't like ourselves, because it's
yeah.
mirroring the love, beauty, and power that we are. We are such powerful light beings, every one of us, and we're all the same. And then we navigate third density, third dimension, and then the whole other conversation is the ego.
Welcome to the Heart of Show Business. I am your host, Alexia Melocchi. I believe in great storytelling and that every successful artist has a deep desire to express something from the heart to create a ripple effect in our society. Hello to all the listeners and the viewers of the Heart of Show Business. This is yet another fabulous episode on my season 8. What if the same instincts used to direct live television at the highest level could also guide you in your life decisions? Today's guest, Mary Madeiras, is a 3-time Emmy Award-winning director with 30 years of top-tier television, spanning from news, sports, talk show, daytime drama. She was in LA. She's also in New York. She's had major broadcast productions with nearly $500 million in budget and directed live programming like CBS's Morning, also brought her storytelling expertise to one of the most iconic series, General Hospital. And she also won her first Emmy during the Seoul Olympics. She directed her own short film, Water Balloon, and music videos with Brian Austin Green. So her career is built on powerful storytelling. However, this time she comes to me as an author, and she actually written an amazing book, which brings her to a completely different dimension, helping people access clarity, intuition, and a deeper truth through the work and her book called The Akashic Way. Welcome to my show, Mary.
Thank you. That was such a lovely intro.
So, Mary, you spend decades making split-second decisions. So, what was happening in your life when you started feeling a shift, which brought you to discover the Akashic Way?
Books, themes, workshops. So I followed Abraham Hicks. I would go to those workshops. The Secret had come out. Oprah Winfrey was doing one of Eckhart Tolle's books every chapter. So I was doing that and still directing, still being in television. And I think what was happening for me in retrospect, we don't always see things as we're going through them. But I was feeling still happy in television. So I wasn't feeling like, okay, time to go over here. I think my ego, to be honest with you, was like, no, I got to stay over here. It's money, more awards, it's fun. Who doesn't want to work in television? This was on General Hospital. My boss, the executive producer, so all of a sudden she like calls me up to her office and she's like, I'm not renewing your contract. The floor dropped out from under me. And there wasn't really an explanation. It was very nebulous. So I went to the actors, and I remember a conversation with Tony Geary, who played Luke on General Hospital. And I asked them, is there something I'm missing? And they thought I was joking. And they said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm leaving. I'm not being renewed. They were like, are you kidding? You're one of the best directors we've worked with. Well, that was all I needed to hear. So I knew something else was going on. In retrospect, I think I was being nudged by creator source, whatever we want to call that, to where I am now, to this other dimension, as you said. And I realized that the dimension that I work in, I knew it from when I was very little. But we go into life and we do third dimensional things and we get exciting careers and we want to make money and we have our own apartments and then we buy a house, all those things. And I was at a psychic reading, a woman that I used to go to, and she saw a being over my shoulder and she said, there's this being here and he looks like a genie. And I'm like, well, who is he? And she said, he says he protects your Akashic records. And I said, well, what are those? And she said, I don't know, but that's what he says he does. So I went home, looked it up, felt a gentle knowing. I kept trying to get back into television and soap operas were going off the air. So then the second sign was I was in a metaphysical bookstore in Los Angeles. So I was in a back room by myself, and my attention was drawn to above me. There was a book sticking out off the shelf, and I pulled it down. And the name of the book was How to Read Your Akashic Records. So I was like, okay, I'm going to listen. I bought the book, read it. And in that book, the author has you opening your records using a sacred prayer, which is what was downloaded for her. And I began to hear blocks of thought that were not mine. They were beautiful, similar to Neil Donald Walsh. So then I started to listen. And so I decided to study the author of that book, Linda Howe, who runs a Center for Akashic Studies outside of Chicago. And so I began working with her. She had online classes, which was great. And that's where I got my accreditations to practice practice reading the Akashic Records, and my own records then enlightened me to the fact that I was to be writing. So there was an imprint in my own records that showed me as a writer. And I remember disagreeing with my own records. I would sit at my computer and I'd be like, no, I'm not a writer. I'm a director. And the records were like, well, because they're not going to tell us what to do. But it was like, there's an imprint here of you as a writer. And when you begin to write, it will be so easy that you will question it. And that's what happened.
What an amazing story. And you know what? I totally relate to that because to me it said, you got to use your voice to heal. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, I'm not an actress. I don't care about acting. But then I thought, I
Yeah.
always wanted to be like the white Oprah for show business. And so I'm like going, maybe this is what I'm going to lean to. But it's always been a scary journey, which is why I haven't fully let go of everything else. But the people that ask me about it, and I have no idea how to answer it, and maybe you do, like, people hear Akashic Records, and I think it's something that is very mystical and something like out of reach. It feels like a Harry Potter thing. Like we're gonna go to like
Yeah, I know.
it's gonna
Woo
be
woo.
yeah, like books floating, and then there's gonna be like a wise man who's gonna try like to tell you with the beard. And so, what are they in practical terms? Maybe you can enlighten my listeners, or
Well, sure, absolutely. Because, if you can feel me, I'm very grounded. I'm very relatable. Like I don't run around like woo woo. I'm just not that kind of person. But when you know.
yeah.
Because when I first opened my records, I knew it was an affirmation about so much. So what is it? So Akashic Records are a divine quantum field. I equate it to, it's similar to, I'll say, Dr. Joe Dispenza's field of possibilities.
Yeah.
What is that, right? And I've done those meditations and gone into the field of possibilities. It feels the same. It is this higher dimensional space, higher vibrational space, I should say. And it's quantum. Now, science is now proving the existence of a quantum space that can hold on to things, that can record. So the idea is that the records are a vibrational record or an imprint, vibrational imprint of every soul's journey, lifetime after lifetime, meaning everything we have as a soul reincarnating have thought, experienced, lived lifetime after lifetime. And it's all imprinted. It's there in the records. So when we, through intention, prayer, raising our vibration, it could be through meditation, it's different for different people. But when we raise our vibration to the vibratory state of divine consciousness, that's when we can begin to hear. And it's our intention for clarity or to remember who we are or find out why we're here. It is that intention that ignites I'll say there are energies that oversee our records in what I've learned, the masters, teachers, and loved ones, and they're light energies. And so they protect the sanctity of our records so nothing can harm them, right? So throughout history, this is so interesting. The more I dug in, I found it so interesting. They've been known as different things. So in the Bible, the book of life, the book of life in the Bible talks about a space where everything we've done as souls becomes recorded. The Tibetan Book of the Dead so Hinduism has its version, the Quran's got one.
The Veda in India too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So this is not new. That's why I like to say this idea, this existence of this has been around since the beginning of time. And so, Akash, the word Akash means, it's a Sanskrit word, and it means that from which all things are formed. So it's as if life on the planet, or humanity, let's say, began as this blank slate in this field. And then all living things begin to move about and live in lifetimes, their actions become imprinted into this field. So it's hard to not look at it. It is metaphysical. A lot of people ask me, well, is it a library with books? No, but that's just our need to sort of, like you said, like Harry Potter it out. Like we want to, like, show
Yes.
me what it is, right? Because we're visual, and we've both been in the industry, storytelling. We want to storytell. What does it look like? So for me, it's a sensation, it's a knowing. And when I'm working in the records, my ego is not present. I'm there, but my ego is not present. I cannot have an opinion when I'm working with people. I cannot have opinion. I tried once to have an opinion in my mind when I was working with a client. I could not. I could
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
That is so fascinating. I love what you talked about in terms of clarity. And I still believe clarity in every way is currency. And so many people are bankrupt in it.
Yeah.
What I like to think about the Akashic Records, the way that I explain it, and not as well as you do, because clearly you've done the work and I still am discovering it. But
We're all the same.
well, all the same, that's true. But I call it a soul agreements. It's like I call it a collection of soul agreements that we've made through our soul's DNA that kind of show up and we may not be aware of when we come incarnated into this life. And the thing that I've always wondered, and I know the answer, but of course, I need you to tell me because you're my guest, and that's the whole purpose of having you on the show. Is can we change those records? So if there is something there that we do not like, can you transmute, and having the awareness of it, can we transform them and be more self-determined, shall we say?
So we have 100% freedom. Divine does not swoop in and tell us to do anything. And there's never going to be anything we don't like when we're in our records. When we're in our records, we are being shown the mirror image of each one of us as divine, whole, balanced beings of light and love. That's what we're being shown. And to answer your question about changing things, my understanding is, and I resonate with this, is that as a soul, when we're on the other side, before we incarnate, we make a choice. The soul chooses to incarnate into a specific lifetime. And the choice involves, I like to call it like a bigger theme. We don't choose to come into creepy families and suffer and things like that. We choose to incarnate onto a planet, maybe like why are we all here right now in this chaotic planet? We obviously made a choice about bringing a bigger idea of things, right? Self-love, compassion, love of humanity. I believe those are the kinds of choices that the souls make. Then we incarnate, and then how we carry that out is our choice. We can do whatever we want, really. And so that part of the records are fixed. But I like to remind everyone, we made the choice. So there's nothing in the records we're not going to like, because then that would mean we don't like ourselves.
Mic drop moment. Love that part. Yes.
Yeah, because it's mirroring the love, beauty, and power that we are. We are such powerful light beings, every one of us, and we're all the same. And then we navigate third density, third dimension, and then the whole other conversation is the ego, which Eckhart Tolle beautifully talks about. The ego conscious and the collective ego conscious. And so the ego, what happens is, if somebody is not happy about something, several things are happening. Probably, if they're unhappy in their lives, they're probably not listening to something that their soul is reaching out about, that it chose, right? We can't be linear about it. This is deep. So we might feel uncomfortable about, maybe it's a job we're in, we hate it. And we've learned as a humanity, no pain, no gain. We're supposed to suffer and then go have fun and vacations and retire. And it's like divine says, oh no, that was constructed. That's a perception constructed by mankind. We're not supposed to suffer. We're not here to suffer. And so when we visit our records, we remember on a very deep level, something triggers. And it's this like, there are a bunch of ahas, right? Like, oh yeah, we start to feel different or good or better. That's where we get affirmations. It could be really shut down or bullied. Then the subconscious records that. And then our subconscious runs things from our life behavior so this comes up a lot in records, in record readings. So trauma, right? We do have it. It does happen, a lot of us. And what that does, the records say, let's look at what did the energy of that feel like? Well, usually if you were shut down, it's power because somebody's taking your power away. So if you look at it that way and you go, oh, very powerful energy. Now, what if you could harness that energy, pull it into your life now? It transmutes the trauma, not the events. The events are still there. And they always play a role towards our own soul's chosen journey. They always do. There's nothing in our life that is random or a mistake. Those are also older concepts, old paradigm concepts. The old paradigm is just breaking away.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and this is so, I mean, there are like literally so many Instagrammable moments, I hate to say this, on what you just said. And it's true, like what my shaman, Debbie, who did my reading, she calls them spears. You could have anger spears, you could have victimhood spears, you could have,
Yes.
guilt, through like lifetimes where you're running
Shame. Yeah.
guilt, shame, all of that. What I love in your book, people need to come to expert practitioner. It might be worth doing it at least the first time with someone who knows how to do it versus trying it on their own. Because I think, what if they start questioning their own sanity? You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I know you have a certain procedure that you do and, on how to get into a meditative state and ask the right questions so that you can drop the ego and listen, right? But
Yeah.
do you feel
Call on and remember anything that brings you joy. Anything. Just take time out. Just think about what brings you like happiness, joy, what you lose time over, what you're passionate about. Write it down. Just write it down. There's no to-dos here. This is about getting back to the love and light that we are. And amid this, these challenging times, right? I mean, because some people will say, well, how am I going to do that? I can't pay my mortgage and my husband just left me and, all this stuff going on. I'm going to say you can. Now, it doesn't mean you're taking a sabbatical for a month. It just means you could be doing it while you're driving. Just remember things that you're passionate about or things you've always wanted and thought you couldn't have. Like start doing that. Abraham Hicks talks speaks of a rampage of appreciation, but this isn't an appreciation. This is just really stuff that feels great to you, that you love doing. Doesn't matter. There's no judgment, right? And there is no judgment with divine, no such thing. So that I'm telling you, really, it could be just listening to a piece of music, and you go put a piece of music on, and all of a sudden it takes you out, or animals, nature, just give yourself 1 minute a day to do it, and then it'll be 5 minutes. And I think maybe I think this is in the book. I think there's a chapter, if I can remember, there's a chapter about where the records are saying, just take 5 minutes every day and write down what brings you joy, no matter what, no judgment at all. And if some judger comes in, you just say, go sit over there inside ourselves and use our imaginations. Because that's another thing. That's the greatest. We have access. We all have, or I should say, yeah, we have access to our imagination, but it's one of our greatest components as human beings that we kind of gloss over. And we think imagination is, oh, go and write a screenplay or go and paint a painting. No, imagination is, this is why Harry Potter is still popular, because imagination is like a built-in portal that we have. It has no judgment. If you think about it, our imaginations don't have judgment. They just allow stuff in and out, right? And then our minds can watch it It's cool. So I suggest that people play with that, play with your imaginations, listen to your imaginations. Yeah, this is all about getting back. This is power. We're being asked to get golden swords out. If a path is blocking you because it's negative, negative people, negative situations, we get to walk around it. We can just ride around it because we're not made up of that negative stuff. We aren't. It's a trick. It's a trick of the ego.
People are starting to see the truth, which is why so many people are open now to knowing more. They're revisiting and they're going to the Dispensas and they're going to the books, going to all that, to the Abraham Hicks. I think, when there's a lot of darkness, there's definitely light.
Here's one thing I'll add. Abraham Hicks has a saying, when you walk in a room, there's no dark switch, because there isn't dark. There's just lack of light. There is no dark. There is no boogeyman hiding behind the corner. And there are those who are power hungry and egotistical that don't know their light. Then they want us to be scared of a boogeyman behind a corner. And I think that people are coming. I actually have more power than they're telling me I have.
Yep.
And that's what I do with the records, empower people. I'm not telling people what to do. They're going to, wait a minute. I don't need to take this crappy boss that's treating me like crap.
So in closing, Mary, what's coming right now? Maybe you had the chance to think about it, but we talked about whether you want to define yourself in 3 words, if it's even possible, whatever comes, freestyle, or if there is some sort of life lesson, life mantra, sentence, download something that came, that is, that little voice that switches the flow for you.
So I am a lover of humanity. That's it. I always was. I'm being reminded by Divine Source Creator on a daily basis that, yeah, we are really, we are love. We are that. So I am a lover of humanity and I'm proud of it.
You are indeed, Mary. So thank you to everyone. If you like this episode, you please subscribe, share, review. So thank you, Mary, once again for coming
Thank you.
on my show.
Yes, this was an honor to be here. Seriously.
It's been great. And as I say in Italian, because I'm Italian, this is the Heart of Show Business, over and out. Ciao.
Ciao, Bella.